Why do we not try our best? I'm not asking why we fail. Failure is oftentimes unavoidable. I'm asking why we don't try our best in projects, sports, relationships. Why don't we give it our all? Why don't we fight till the end? Why do we give up? Why do we not put in 100% of the effort that we could? Why do we hold back? It seems to be doubt and fear. It seems to be doubt and fear that we fear that we'll fail, so what's the point? And there are some cases where it's rational and logical not to try your best. If you're being paid hourly at a job you don't care about, your boss doesn't really care if you do an excellent job or a mediocre job, it might make sense not to try your best so that you can save your mental, physical, emotional energy for things that you care about, your relationships, looking for a new job, your projects, whatever. So there are times when it's really not important to try your best. But once you've established your priorities in life, like what's important to you? Is it your relationship with God? Is it personal relationships? Is it your job? Is it making money? Is it writing a book? Once you establish, if someone asks you, what are your goals in life? Where do you want to see yourself in a year, 2 years, or 5 years, or 10 years, or 20 years? What do you want your future to look like? How are you going to get there? What are your priorities? Whether that's building a family, whether that's becoming a saner person, becoming a healthier person, physically healthy. Whatever your goals and priorities are, whatever you define as important in your life, if it's physical, mental, spiritual, relational, social, whatever your goals are, why aren't you trying your best? Because I think when people get to the point where they acknowledge, hey, this is important to me. It's important that I quit smoking. I quit my bad habits. It's important that I stop watching porn. It's important being dependent on video games. It's important that I get a normal sleep schedule. All of these things that if people really sit down and they take the time and they're put on the spot and they're asked, what's important to you? What are your priorities? What comes first as opposed to those secondary and tertiary things? We have a limited time. What are your priorities? If you could only get one thing done today, tomorrow, next week, next month, year, or decade, what would those things be? And once they're clearly defined, that's not the end of it, because I think people can say, yeah, I really would like to write a book, or I really would like have more friends, or I would really like become physically healthy, I'd like my weight decrease, or some cases I want to see my weight increase. And then you can start tracking it, right? Once you define clearly what it is, you can start tracking it. You can say, well, I smoked a pack of cigarettes today, I overate today, or I didn't talk to anybody today, or I didn't work on my projects today. And you start tracking it, and the failure starts to pile up. And that's another place where you get stuck, where it's like, okay, I've defined my goals, I'm tracking my goals, all I see is failure, I don't see any progress. Am I not motivated enough? Have I not watched enough motivational videos? Do I not have the right pump-up music? Is there some kind of tertiary circadian life hack that I need to unlock? Maybe I'm seeing too much blue light. Maybe I need motivational pictures. Maybe I need to hang up a picture in the bathroom that's a picture of a guy climbing a mountain that says never give up. Maybe that's what I need. Maybe that's what's going to push me over the hill. People don't lack motivation. The reason why live, laugh, love is such a trite statement is because it's mundane. Because living, laughing, and loving are easy, right? You hear a joke, you laugh. You see something that you love or someone that you love, it's just automatic, right? We're breathing, our heart is beating, we don't have to attempt it, we don't have to try it, we don't have to pursue it, it just happens. We get hungry, and if we have access to food, then we eat. It's not a struggle. And maybe if you're severely depressed and you have all kinds of other problems, maybe it is a struggle to get out of bed and make yourself a snack, and maybe you'd rather just lie in bed and be hungry. It's seeing failure rack up in your life and reflecting upon failure, because just stating your priorities and just tracking your priorities, if you're not doing so well and you feel like you don't have the motivation, there's a kind of recursive cycle where you feel worse, and so you do less well, and so on and so forth. The way you break out of that cycle, I don't believe, is by pumping yourself full of positivity. I don't think it's about injecting physical steroids or by listening to binaural beats or slapping yourself on the cheeks a bunch of times, although maybe if that works for you, hey, I'm not going to knock it if it works for you. But I'm starting to feel, for myself personally, and as I look at other people, it's not a lack of positive motivation, because I think positive motivation is just natural. It's as natural as breathing. We breathe in the oxygen, we breathe out the carbon dioxide. Nobody has to tell us to do it. We don't have to learn how to do it. We don't need a motivational video to do it. Now, of course, there are better breathing techniques. You can learn how to do deep breathing and belly breathing and all these things. But fundamentally, living, laughing, loving, it's just easy. When you have a video game that you like, you play it, okay? When you have something that you just like and it's easy for you and you enjoy it, nobody has to tell you to do it. You don't have to be motivated to do it. And if you're sort of an obsessive person, you can sit down and read that book for 12 hours and the time just flies by. You don't even, wow, that was 12 hours of reading, right? If you're really into something, then you can do it and it's easy, and it's actually difficult to get yourself away from that. So why is it that we can't pursue our priorities? Is it just because they're hard and we hate working on what we need to? In some cases, possibly. But I think there are other cases where we're afraid of failure. We're afraid of the outcome. We're afraid that we're not good enough to achieve it. We're afraid that if we write the book, no one's going to read it. We're afraid that if we try to become fit, we'll never be fit enough. We'll get injured. Try to work on our personal relationships, and it doesn't work out anyway. It's just ephemeral. Try to work on God or religion, and it's like, well, God doesn't exist, or the religion's fundamentally flawed, or there's always, with any pursuit, with any goal, you're playing a team sport and the other team is just better than you, and so you won't win, and so you give up. And like I said, there are cases in which it's rational. If you're in an impossible situation, sometimes it is rational just to say, I'm going to give up on that and do something else. But there's a value to fearlessness. There's a value to saying, you know what, I am going to die. Failure is 100% certain. At the end of my life, I will pass away. So I'm never going to be perfect. That's impossible. That would take an infinite time, and I don't have that. If failure's certain, then do I want to live my life in fear of failure, which is going to happen anyway? How does that make sense? I might as well live fearlessly. I think that would be the easiest life to live, right? That would just take all this stress off you and actually allow you to unleash your potential. So there's a value in fearlessness that allows you, basically it takes this weight off your body of doubt. Oh, I can't do this, I can't do that, it doesn't matter anyway, it's going to fail, it's going to end, it's ephemeral, right? Why do anything? Why bother with anything? It's all just going to end. If you can somehow access a kind of fearlessness, and you can somehow take all the apathy and depression that you direct toward the positive things in your life, and you instead direct that toward your fear, and you just kind of blow it away like a wisp, if you can do that, and I don't, maybe how to do that is a little more complicated than just stating that you should do it, but if you could do that, I feel like that would be more effective than having the weight of fear and doubt on you, and then also trying to counteract that with a bunch of hyped up positivity. One of the traps I feel people fall into with radical politics is that radical politics has the appearance of fearlessness, right? It says, I'm willing to give my life. I'm willing to sacrifice everything. I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I'm willing to alienate myself from my parents, my friends, my family, my larger society, my employer. I'm willing to get fired. I'm willing to incur whatever it takes for the sake of these radical politics. And so there's something empowering and relieving and liberating about embracing radical politics of any stripe, because it gives you the appearance and it gives you the self-assurance that I am a fearless person. If I am a Marxist-Leninist or I am a far-right extremist, I can look in the mirror and I can say I'm fearless and there's nothing that holds me back. I don't fear anything. I don't fear anyone because I have radical politics. But in actuality, the way that manifests in your day-to-day life in terms of your goals and your priorities and how you interact with people, I see a lot of fear. I see people embracing radical politics but not following through. That's the problem I see with radical politics, is it gives this illusion that I am a fearless person because I have radical politics, and therefore I don't have to deal with the problem of fearlessness. That's not a problem in my life. I can put that to the side. I can go back to posting edgy memes and criticizing other people who are not as radical as me, right? But I think that's a very shallow kind of fearlessness because it doesn't actually immanentize itself in the realm of action. This is my problem with radical politics, is it's all fearlessness in its talk and it's no fearlessness in its action. Again, I don't advocate for that action because those aren't my politics. But I think objectively speaking, if these radical political, we can't even call them agents because agents comes from the Latin ago, meaning to act, right? Ago, egoi, actus, if you remember your principal parts. They are not agents, they are political fantasizers. And we have a mass riot anarchy event, and they'll go into a church and they'll shoot up innocent people in a church. they're not going to walk into this situation, which is like it's literally urban guerrilla warfare happening right now. You could join the fray if you wanted to be an accelerationist, if you wanted to draw attention to your radical politics, if you wanted to do that, something I don't advocate, something I'm against, but that would be the actual living out of those politics. But out of millions and millions of people I encounter, and they range from Bill O'Reilly watchers to Hal Turner listeners and Jared Taylor lovers, and all of these people across the spectrum, ranging from mainstream Republicans who during 9/11 were basically issuing genocidal statements against Muslims and against blacks and Hispanics, all these people who are very violent in their rhetoric, and who, again, these are millions of white Republicans who have a corollary on the far left. I'm not saying the left doesn't do the same thing. I'm not saying the left is free of criticism. The media would be all over it. If there were white guys with guns going around and, oh, we're the right-wing death squads, and we're going to put on the crazy gas mask helmets, and oh, look at all of our weapons. You know, these right-wingers, they love to show off their guns. They fantasize, they fetishize their guns. They fantasize and they fetishize about violence and civil war. It's like it's happening right now, and you're too cowardly to do anything about it. To me, that's evidence that the ideology itself is totally flawed, and I just completely disagree with it. And I think it's fake. I think it's tough talk on the internet. I think it's, look at my gun safe, look at all the guns I have, and it's nothing in the real world. I would much rather have an ideology or political philosophy that maybe isn't so radical and violent, but it actually take actions that are not about radical violence, but they're about constructivism and building something, and a little more complicated to actually do than just to talk about. But in my own priorities, this is what I'm seeing, that I feel radical politics is a kind of phantasm in terms of the aspect of fearlessness. It gives you a false sense of fearlessness. On the left, I think the reason why the left actually is burning down buildings right now is because they're enabled by the state to a large degree. And it's a lot easier to be a violent hooligan when the state gives you a free pass. So the left does have that going for them. But if you were truly a fearless person, you wouldn't let the state stop you. Which is why I think the ideology is basically fake. And, you know, I reject it. And I think there's something genuine behind. The reason why I keep talking about these subjects is because I think there's something really genuine about the desire for fearlessness. I think there's something genuine about the recognition that living in fear for the rest of your life, a sin against yourself, a sin against those around you, a sin against nature, a sin against God, living life in fear is like the worst thing you can do. That's how most people, the vast majority of people, live their lives. And so the desire, the attraction to radical politics shows that someone is genuinely upset about fear and they really want to be fearless. And I think there's something good in that desire. So I think there's something good in the desire that leads people to radical politics. But I think it's a dead end. I think it's a false friend. And it still leaves the question unanswered of how are you going to achieve true fearlessness? How are you going to live life in a way that is truly fearless? The relationship isn't going to work out. I'm never going to quit this habit. I'm not going to win the game. I'm never going to write the book. You know, no one's going to like it anyway. All of these fears, in some cases, they are rational. But once you've gone through that rationalization process of prioritizing, what are your reasonable goals? If you're tracking them and you're still not making progress, it might not be a problem of you don't have enough motivation. You don't have enough, you know, awesome pump-up songs. You haven't watched enough football coaches give speeches. It might be that this weight of fear on you is just too heavy. And it's something you've got to let go to, and you've got to allow that spirit of death that weighs over you to die itself and to lift it off you. Because when an object has inertia, it just has natural inertia, breathing in, breathing out, heart is beating. When an object has inertia, it just moves. It just glides through space. Once you remove that friction, it just glides through space. You remove the obstacles in the way and the dark clouds and all of that dust, it just glides in space. And life I mean, life is not easy. There's always going to be pain. There's always going to be failure and setbacks. You're always going to lose things that you love. But you can move forward quite easily. It actually doesn't take a lot of effort to just move forward in space, to take life one day at a time. But if you have all these obstacles and clouds and dust in your way that blind you and bind you and hold you down, then it doesn't matter how strong you are, because it's like, you know, even if you had the unstoppable force of every football coach speech and every pump up music and all the antidepressants in the world and all the, like, if you had every positive thing in your life going for you, but you still have this unmovable weight of fear on you, then I think the unmovable weight beats the unstoppable force, because I don't think we actually can we can generate forces. I'm not saying positivity is useless. It is important just to be positive. Exercise, surround yourself with good people, read a motivational mantra every morning, do prayer, hang up the bathroom poster of the guy climbing the cliff that says never give up. Maybe legitimately all those life hacks, maybe that is the way to go, but maybe in some cases you just got to let go of your fear, accept it, live life without it, just let it go. I don't know. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.